Hosting this webinar. Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Trevor Estelle. I'm the Vice President of ServSafe Alcohol and Regulatory Services with the National Restaurant Association. I'm also a University of Maine Orono grad, just so everyone knows. I won't say which year, but Maine has been in my heart for years. I didn't grow up in Maine, but I spent a lot of time after graduating from college and working in Maine. So here to talk to you today a little bit about ServSafe Alcohol, some of the content, some of the benefits, how to implement. But before I do that, I want to touch base on some of the regulatory trends coming out of the pandemic, and even before post-pandemic, some of these trends were already in movement or moving forward. So National Restaurant Association has identified 6 major trends coming out of the pandemic, or like I said, a little bit before the pandemic for some of them. And I'm going to go through each one of them, and each one of them does have an inherent risks associated with them. Some of them do contain some opportunities for our operators, but going through on how we can mitigate the risks associated with them, as well as talk a little bit about Maine law and regulations and where the training fits in and how we can help you guys as operators. So first trend coming out of the pandemic is reducing the age to serve. Now, with 45% of operators reporting labor shortages across the U.S., there's many states are considering or have passed laws to lower the age to serve. This is a huge trend. There's now 10 states that have introduced legislation, 7 have enacted, all a little bit different. Maine is not immune to this. In fact, Maine is kind of a pioneer that for decades they were the first state to lower to 17, and that was over a decade ago, I believe, in which they did lower to 17. We are talking about the age to serve, not the age to mix or pour alcohol. Age to serve is simply bringing the alcohol from the table or from the bar to the table. However, in Maine, they don't differentiate between the two. So both can be done. Has to be done in a supervisory capacity, meaning someone 21 plus, 21 years old or older, and needs to be with the individual either serving or at the bar level as well. So, but it is a trend that's out there. One of the things to note with this, as far as having a younger workforce in the community, it's a good time to be reminded that we need to make sure that we're training those individuals when it comes to alcohol service. Oftentimes, this is their first job, where not only are they learning the ropes of a first job, but they also need to learn the ropes of responsible service. And really, training can do that, right? Training makes sure when we talk about ServSafe Alcohol, and we'll go into that a little bit, but ServSafe Alcohol, training those folks with that younger workforce becomes vital when it comes to mitigating the risk with that younger workforce. Next, delivery of alcohol. There's now 24 states have made alcohol to go permanent, while another 10 states are allowing it on a long-term but temporary basis. This is certainly a trend that's coming out of the pandemic. Maine is not immune to it. In fact, last year, Maine's governor signed the bill, and most of you guys know this, signed the bill making to-go alcohol permanent. This really is the wild, wild west of transactions, and it's new to a lot of folks that are out there. So 2 years ago, in California, the California ABC actually targeted 400 delivery drivers. And a result of this sting, there was 214 citations handed out. That's over 50% on a failure rate. These enforcement agencies do talk to one another. So we need to make sure that we know that this is going on, for one. So if you're in this space, be prepared. Enforcement is targeting not just in Maine, but in states across the country. And we need to make sure that we're delivering correctly. And it's not just at the driver level. Ultimately, the responsibility and the liability will come right back to the licensees. So making sure that we have policies and procedures in place from the time that the order's placed to the time that we're bringing it to the curbside, or to the time that we're actually delivering it as well, making sure that we're checking IDs, making sure that we're not delivering to someone that's visibly intoxicated. All that plays a role when we're in the to-go space. Some have jumped into the space and found it as a huge opportunity. Some have not. Obviously, it's completely up to you. I think a lot of folks were waiting to see if it was going to become permanent. It is now, so there might be more that are jumping into the space. But regardless, know that it is a unique transaction. It does require training. You need to make sure not only again that the cashier or the order point of sale has the training, but the delivery driver as well. And then that delivery driver could be a third-party delivery driver, or it could be your own delivery driver, but making sure that you're aligned on policy with the driver. And it really becomes important with that third-party delivery as well, that you're aligned with them to make sure that they have procedures in place.
Trevor,
Yes.
quick question from the chat. A 17-year-old can pour in Maine, correct?
Yes, 17 under a supervisory capacity, meaning they have to be 21. They have to be in the supervisor has to be 21 plus that's with them.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Which is different. I mean, some states will have they'll have an 18-year-old age to serve, but a 20-year-old age to pour and mix. But Maine does not differentiate between the two.
Thank you.
Yep. Number 3, as far as trends go, the rise of digital IDs. There's now 30 states currently or will soon accept some form of digital ID. And I think most of us know what a digital ID is. It's oftentimes it's going to be an application that's created by the state that could be used on your phone, a mobile ID. More often than not, what we're seeing in states, though, is they're partnering with like Apple Wallet or Google Wallet to present the ID on their phone. Now, can you do this in Maine? So can you really put your driver's license on your phone in Maine? And the answer right now is no, you can't. However, Maine is committed to bringing digital IDs to the forefront at some point. They haven't, it's unclear on when it's going to happen. But it's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. It's not off the table. I know they went through some growing pains with the Real ID in Maine. I think they're over that hurdle and they're now moving into looking into mobile IDs. But like I said, 30 states now are considering or have passed where they already have a procedure in place for mobile IDs. Maine's not going to be immune to this, that it will come. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So what does this mean to you as an operation? A couple things. Well, first off, what's going to happen is you can have your own policy. If you want to accept digital IDs, you certainly are going to be able to sometime in the future. You don't have to, but it can be a policy where you are accepting. If you are accepting them, you got to make sure we have training in place, because looking at a physical ID compared to the features that are on a mobile ID are really night and day in a lot of cases. I mean, there's the obvious stuff, date of birth, photo, but how you handle a phone and how you handle the ID itself is a little bit different than obviously a physical ID. From a policy standpoint, if you choose to, we would encourage you to choose to accept it. The reason being, if they're anything like me, I don't like carrying around a wallet. My wife doesn't like carrying around a purse. This is really the way that we're going. Everything's going to be on our phone. So you don't want to burden your customer. They're going to come to expect that you're going to accept a digital ID as proof of age. So if it does come to the forefront, we would encourage you to do it. Again, though, it's going to more than likely, it's not going to be forced on you. It's going to be up to you, but your customers are really going to come to expect it sometime down the road. Again, this isn't something that you can do yet. We're talking future, but it's again, not a matter of if, but a matter of when. Number 4, and this one's not on everyone's radar, and it probably should be, lowering the legal driving limit from 0.08 to 0.05. And everyone's probably like, whoa, what's going on here? A little bit of history here. Back in 2016, the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, recommended that states lower the legal driving limit from 0.08 to 0.05. Fast forward to 2017, Utah becomes the first and currently the only state to have a 0.05 DUI level, first-time offender. However, in 2022 and even in 2023, NTSB, they really doubled down on this recommendation, citing studies that 0.05 is going to save lives. As a result, there's now 6 states that have introduced legislation to lower from 0.08 to 0.05. Maine is not on that list. Doesn't mean that they couldn't be at some point, but they're not on that list. However, this is a game changer from a liability standpoint. For an example, a 120-pound woman comes into your establishment, has a glass of wine, leaves your establishment within an hour. Technically, you just overserved that person in a 0.05 environment. So from a liability standpoint, insurance is keeping a very close eye on this. It's kind of a game changer. And again, training is going to be a big factor, and what that BAC and determining BAC, how you do it. We're certainly not giving breathalyzers at the table when we're doing it, but there's ways in which we can monitor it and understand it and make sure that folks are consuming responsibly. But just know that several states, and it seems to be a trend. It's not a huge trend, but several states are considering lowering to 0.05. Maine's not on that list yet, but keep in mind, Maine does have a history of 0.05, and that they were one of the first states to lower to 0.05 for someone convicted of a DUI, where they're not able to be over a 0.05 if convicted. So they were one of the first states to do that, but there has been nothing in the legislation recently regarding lowering from 0.08 to 0.05, but something to keep an eye on. That's why I bring it up. Another trend, the big one, the legalization of recreational marijuana. So in May 2016, Maine voters legalized recreational marijuana. We all know this. Fast forward to 2020, that's when they were able to actually buy marijuana from dispensaries. Currently, there's, I believe, over 220 dispensaries across the state, really left up to the municipality if they want to allow the sale, having a dispensary within their community. But because it's a growing trend, obviously, that's out there. And what you need to ask yourself as an operator, what does this mean to me? I'm not a dispensary, I'm an operator. How does this affect my business? Well, there's certainly inherent liability and risk, but there's also opportunity too. Let me talk about both of them. From a liability standpoint, think about your customers. You now have customers that have consumed. On-site consumption in social clubs isn't legal yet in Maine, but it's being considered. But even if they're consuming in their private homes and then they come to your establishment, you now have a customer that's consumed cannabis and coming into your establishment. What does the standard of care around that person look like? I mean, we're not talking about alcohol, we're talking about cannabis and marijuana. What's if someone comes in high, what's the standard of care around that? And that's, again, the training, a good training program is going to be able to identify someone that's in trouble with THC or with cannabis, and it's going to be able to handle that situation appropriately. So training becomes key when it comes to identifying customers that might be in trouble. To your employees, right? Now that it's legal, you don't want employees consuming prior to coming into work. So, your employee handbook, does it have something in there regarding the consumption of cannabis before coming in and working a shift? And that's a big one as well, to keep an eye on. And that's not so much training, more so just policy and making sure you're covered from that standpoint with an employee handbook piece or module that has that information in it. From an opportunity standpoint, everyone's talking about cannabis-infused alcohol, what that looks like. Can we dispense it? Can we sell it? And it truly is a big question mark right now, not just in Maine, but in a lot of states, how operators can benefit from the legalization of recreational marijuana. And one of them is, people want to try new things, and cannabis-infused alcohol is one of the things that's on the table out there. But again, a lot of questions around it. There's no real laws or regulations yet. It's still kind of the wild, wild west with that. And Maine's not alone. It's pretty much every state is in that boat. But it's something from an opportunity standpoint to keep an eye on. Number 6, and this really isn't coming out of the pandemic. This was prior to the pandemic. There has been an enormous increase in liquor liability lawsuits across the country. Simply do a Google search for dram shop liability or liquor liability cases, and you will find hundreds, if not thousands, of cases that have settled out of court for millions of dollars, oftentimes shutting down the establishment. This case that I'm showing you up here is one of the more current ones that has been publicized anyway, that didn't have a gag order on it. But it involved an individual that went into a bar in Corpus Christi, Texas, consumed for 8 hours, left the bar, ran a red light, and had an accident that tragically killed 2 individuals from that. So the estate of those 2 individuals went back and sued the bar for over-serving that individual that ran the red light. The verdict came down, and you're seeing that number correctly. $301 billion was the verdict, the judgment against them. It shut down the bar, obviously. The estate won't see much of that money at $301 billion. However, courts are making a statement with that, correct? I mean, that's a large amount. In fact, this is the largest personal injury verdict handed down in U.S. history, and it involves a bar that overserved. Just so everyone knows, prior to that, the largest personal injury was the big tobacco case that was out there. This has kind of gone under the radar. Not a lot of people it wasn't publicized out there, or not a lot of people saw it. But keep in mind that this, from a liability standpoint, bars are getting sued left and right for overservice, whether rightfully or wrongfully so. A lot of times they have to prove that they didn't do it. So what can we do to prevent this from happening, or how can we protect ourselves from a liability standpoint? We need to show that as operators, we're making reasonable efforts to protect our customers, to protect our employees, to protect our community. And I'll propose that really there's no better way to protect your establishment, protect your employees, protect the community than using ServSafe alcohol as a way to mitigate the risk. Those that are using it kind of know what the content is, but ServSafe alcohol is unique in that we're not a teetotaler program. It's a program that's hospitality friendly. It recognizes that 70% of Americans take a drink. It goes over everything on how to check IDs, to recognizing signs of intoxication, to really how to handle those difficult refusal situations that come up. In short, what ServSafe alcohol does is it really gives your servers, your employees, the skills to identify someone that's getting into trouble with alcohol. But more importantly, it's going to give them the confidence to step in and make a difference to prevent that person from hurting themselves or hurting somebody else. And that's really the bottom line, the mission of what ServSafe alcohol does. As far as the advantages and how ServSafe is delivered, probably most on this call are familiar with it. ServSafe is delivered both in a classroom environment taught by a certified ServSafe alcohol instructor. You can also take it online. The certification, the course itself takes approximately 2.5 to 3 hours to complete, depending on the learner. There's an exam at the end. It's a 40-question exam. They score 70% or higher. They're certified for 3 years, and there's no differentiator between online or classroom. They're getting the same content, and they're certified the same way. And with the exam, one's a paper exam and one's an online exam. Are the two differences. A lot of establishments have chosen to have their own ServSafe alcohol instructor on staff. And I'll walk you through the process here in a bit. But it's fairly easy to do. It's your full-time expert when it comes to laws and regulations, policies and procedures, but it's also someone that you can go to when you're onboarding new employees or you have to renew new employees, making sure that everyone's certified. It's nice to have that ServSafe alcohol instructor on staff. If you choose to go the other route with online, certainly a viable route. You simply just are tracking the online certifications as people are taking them, or you're doling them out to the individual to take them, and you're collecting the data that way. Tailored implementation. So, some people will require, and not in this environment, but in the past, but in tight labor environments, it's tough, but some will require ServSafe alcohol as a prerequisite to employment. But more often than not, the operator is paying for the certification. And that certification can be purchased a number of ways. I mean, you can go on servsafe.com. Really, you can go to hospitalitymaine.com as well. They have a link right to ServSafe to get to order. If you have, you need 10 people certified for the online program, you can purchase the course codes and the exam codes and simply dole them out to employees as you're onboarding or as you see fit to get folks certified. And again, the other route is you have your own instructor on staff. And you have them certified that way. But whether you're a single unit or a multi-unit operator, there is tailored implementations made for you for pushing out the program. We kind of pride ourselves in the implementation, the way that we can customize and tailor that meets your company culture. Last but not least, another differentiator with ServSafe alcohol is integrated technologies. Some with more sophisticated systems prefer to have the course integrated into their LMS. We don't license our course. We can't from a regulatory standpoint. However, we do have that completion data. We have ways in which we can do single sign-on. That's one way to do it. But I'll tell you, the vast majority of folks, it's simply a spreadsheet, or they're keeping copies of their card and putting them on file, and that's perfectly fine. That's the majority of how it's being tracked. The integrated technologies is if you go that route, that's available to you too with ServSafe Alcohol, where you're really able to track through a dashboard and have a more, I don't want to call it sophisticated, but probably maybe a more dynamic way in which you can track with our integrated technologies. So your first line of defense, honestly, with anything, not just advocacy, but with educational and training, with education and training, it really is Hospitality Maine. Hospitality Maine, obviously everyone knows the site, hospitalitymaine.com, but on the site, under what we do, there's an option for education and training, and then there's a drop down for ServSafe. If you click on that, you'll get our whole portfolio of ServSafe products. Obviously, not just we're talking about alcohol today, but food handler, manager, workplace allergens, all can be found here. At the bottom, there's ServSafe Alcohol. If you click on that, that drives you right to our ServSafe Alcohol, our ServSafe.com page in which you can purchase product. I'm going to show you two things here. So if you're interested in the instructor route, becoming an instructor, there's really 4 steps to become a ServSafe Alcohol instructor. One, the prerequisite is you need to have completed and passed the standard ServSafe Alcohol course. That can be done online or in a classroom. You need to have a 70% or better, obviously. That's one prerequisite. Then once you do that, there's what we call our ServSafe Alcohol Instructor Tutorial. It's self-taught, self-paced. There's no charge for it. You simply go through it. There's an assessment at the end, assuming you pass the assessment. There's an application you submit to us. There is a $50 fee for the application. We grade them, we process the application, and you become a ServSafe Alcohol instructor. So it sounds like a lot of steps, I know, but it's a fairly easy process to become a ServSafe Alcohol instructor if you're going that route. Once you become a ServSafe Alcohol instructor, you need to train the class. So what we provide is we have what's called a ServSafe Alcohol Instructor Resource Guide and USB. You're seeing that up on the screen right now. That's $300, but I'll get into it in a minute. There is discounts available by being a member of Hospitality Maine. But that $300 includes not just the instructor guide, the physical guide, it includes the PowerPoint presentation as well, which is a real differentiator in our program because the PowerPoint presentation has the videos embedded in it. It's in chronological order of the manual, and it's really a nice crutch when you're training to just follow along with the PowerPoint and train the course. It really makes it easy for instructors to conduct the training. In addition, the PowerPoint allows you to customize the course, meaning that you can't take content out, obviously, but if you want to customize towards whatever your corporate policy is or whatever your restaurant policy is or a new law that you want to highlight, you're able to do that within the PowerPoint when you're training, which makes it nice from a customizable standpoint. And that's $300. That's the biggest expense to become, other than your time. But the $300 is what it costs for the actual USB and instructor guide. And then once you become an instructor and you have this guide, when you go out and train, each individual that you train, they're gonna need what we call our ServSafe Alcohol Guide. And there's $22, and again, there's discounts, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but that $22 includes the guide, it includes the exam answer sheet, the grading and processing of the exam, and the issuing of the certification card. That's all bundled into the $22. So, if you want to live in that instructor-led world, that classroom world, this is what you would need to do that. If you're just looking at online training, which is the majority of folks are going this route, is you just simply purchase the online course. Again, you can purchase multiple. You can bundle it. You can bundle them if you want to purchase 10 or 20. So you have on hand, and there's course codes and course exams that you simply dole out to the individual to take the course, and that's $30 for that. But like I mentioned, there is right now we're running, just by being associated with being not associated, but being a member of Hospitality Maine, you get a 12% discount. Right now, we're actually running a promotion. It's through our Serve It Up campaign, where it's a limited time promotion where we're offering 20% discount on all of the ServSafe alcohol products that are in there. And they just put in Serve It Up in the coupon code, just typical shopping cart technology, and the 20% would be awarded to you when you go into checkout. So another thing too, and this is something to keep in mind as well. So Maine as a state, when it comes to alcohol server training, they don't require it by law, but they highly encourage it. And there are some mitigating benefits to going through a state agency approved program. And ServSafe is that for both online and classroom. What I'm showing you here is the Maine Bureau of Alcoholic Beverages and Lottery Operations. They're the ones that, they're the agency that manages the educational front as well as the laws and regulations. But you can see ServSafe is one of 7 programs out there that is certified by the state. And that's important from not just a compliance standpoint, but it's important that recognition that the state says, okay, we've seen this program, we're giving it the green light, this is what we want in our state, because there's hundreds of programs out there that you can choose from. They have 7 out there that they've picked out as being ones that they've wanted to certify to that they want their operators to use if they're going forward with server training. So some of the benefits of ServSafe Alcohol, we talked about compliance with laws and regulations. That's included in the course. But more than anything, and it's the benefit that's most overlooked, is ServSafe Alcohol promotes community safety. And it does this by preventing drunk driving, underage drinking, and intoxication. And it's such an easy thing, right? But we're talking about mitigating risk and everything else, but that is the core of what ServSafe Alcohol does. And we do this without oversensitizing servers. And what do I mean by that? A lot of the programs that were on the previous page, individuals will go through them, they leave the program, and they're scared to death to serve alcohol. That's not what you want, and that's not what ServSafe Alcohol does. We actually have examples in our course where, just because someone comes into your establishment, has a disagreeable personality, is obnoxious, it doesn't necessarily, you might not want them in your establishment, but it doesn't mean they're intoxicated. And you really need to understand the difference between the two. And you don't want to oversensitize servers by putting them through a program that really puts the fear of God into them when it comes to serving alcohol. And that's not what ServSafe does. In fact, we make efforts to make sure that we're not oversensitizing servers when it comes to that. We're a nationally recognized program. We're trained in all 50 states, 20 different countries. So from that standpoint, we're the national standard of care in courtrooms across the country. So even if it's a court case that doesn't involve ServSafe Alcohol, we're often looked at, okay, what would the ServSafe Alcohol program do in this scenario? What do they train? And we're often brought in on cases from a deposition standpoint to offer that expert testimony, if you will. Now, the National Restaurant Association doesn't directly provide that, but a lot of our instructors and a lot of folks out there do offer that service to provide expert testimony in cases. Another big one, and I think it's even bigger than being recognized by the state, is we're recognized by major insurance carriers, Hartford, Travelers, Farmers. And the reason we are is because those folks that they write insurance policies for that go through the ServSafe Alcohol program, they look at them as less of a risk to write. They're showing a reasonable effort to prevent a situation which protects them from, as an insuree, when they're writing policies. It used to be in the past, you used to get deep discounts as a result of going through ServSafe Alcohol. Nowadays, what's becoming the norm is they're not even writing the liquor liability policy unless you've been through ServSafe Alcohol or a nationally recognized program. So, that kind of speaks volumes for the benefits of the program, because they're actually saying, okay, you go through this program, you're less of a risk to write. This is someone we want to write. And there's still discounts available. Always ask if you've gone through the program, always go to your insurance carrier and remind them that, hey, I'm less of a risk. I'm using ServSafe Alcohol. And there are discounts, not always, but sometimes available to you. I'm moving down so we can get through it. But one of the tertiary benefits, and I hear it a lot from customers, is ServSafe Alcohol really does improve customer service and satisfaction. From the time an individual comes into your establishment to the time that they leave, ServSafe Alcohol is teaching your servers to watch the behavior of that person, asking probing questions, really paying closer attention to that individual. And that's not going to just help from a responsible service standpoint. That customer is going to have a better experience as a result of your employee going through ServSafe Alcohol. It's kind of a tertiary benefit. Not one that I usually put up the screen, but I'm hearing it more and more from some of our larger clients out there that's like, this is what ServSafe Alcohol has done to help us. Yeah, we're mitigating risk, but we're also training our employees to pay closer attention to their customer. And last but not least, the biggest obviously is really with ServSafe Alcohol, you're reducing your exposure to liquor liability lawsuits. All those lawsuits that I had up on the screen earlier, what we can do to what we have to do to mitigate the risks is we have to show that we're making reasonable efforts to prevent those situations from happening. And hoping just by going through the training, it'll be less likely that those incidents will occur. But if they do, you do have that added layer of protection by saying, hey, I've made a reasonable effort to prevent this situation from happening. I have the proof, I have the exams, the assessments that they've gone through. So it's evidence that you're trying to prevent these situations from happening within the community. So moving past what Serve Safe Alcohol does, and I don't know if everyone on the call knows this, but by being a member of Hospitality Maine, you're also a member of the National Restaurant Association, which gives you access to all the benefits that the National Restaurant Association offers its members. One of the things that we're doing right now is we have a website called servesafeservitup.com. It's a website that's dedicated to responsible alcohol service. And on this website, and it's all free, by the way, on this website, there's a tremendous amount of resources that really enhances what's in the Serve Safe Alcohol program. Free resources such as the ID checking process or gauging intoxication levels. This all can be found and downloaded right from the servesafeservitup.com website. It's at free of charge. We also have blogs, we have ebooks. We're just coming out of the holiday season. We had ways in which you can promote responsibility during holiday parties if you're having them in your establishment. Stuff that's kind of seasonal are blog posted on there as well. So there's a tremendous amount of resources available free of charge that you can go and check at your leisure if it's something you want. It even goes down to if you're looking for putting together a policy or a handbook around alcohol service or an employee handbook. That information could be actually found on our website as well at the Serve Safe Serve It Up website. Another research that we have at the national front is we have researchers that are a whole department that's dedicated to the research that we do out there. And one of the things they recently came out with was trends in on-premise and on and off-premise beverage alcohol. This came out last year. If you go to restaurant.org, I know I'm shooting a lot of websites out at you, but restaurant.org has this available to download. It has everything from who's buying, what they're buying, how they're buying it. It also includes what I really like at the end. There's 30 operator profiles from across the country, and it really digs into what's working for the operator, what's not working, what's trending. I found them fascinating because what's happening in Green Bay, Wisconsin might be a little bit than what's happening in Auburn, Maine, right? So it's kind of interesting to see how the trends that are out there, and it might give you some ideas as well as far as what's on the menu. Obviously, this is beyond just responsibility, responsible service, but it is something available to you as being a National Restaurant Association member. Other research hot off the press, this again is at restaurant.org, and it is available to you at no charge, is the What's Hot Culinary Forecast. Obviously, this goes beyond beverage. It does talk about food, but it does have an entire chapter dedicated to food, or I'm sorry, dedicated to alcohol. And it talks about some of the top alcohol beverages by area within the country, by region, I should say. But it also talks about emerging cocktails. One of the ones that is interesting was the pickle cocktail. I haven't tried one yet, but or the pickle martini, but one of the things that was trending in 2023 going into 2024. But it does give you ideas perhaps for drink menu items. It gives you an idea as far as what's working out there from a cocktails, what's selling out there from a cocktail standpoint. So I don't have much more. I don't know if any questions came up. I'm going to put up my contact information, which you also can find on our website. I will say this again, your first line of defense really is Hospitality Maine. Kathleen and her team, they do a tremendous job, again, not just from an advocacy standpoint, but from an education and training standpoint. HospitalityMaine.com they just revamped their website, so they have a lot of great information that's logically placed up there, not just the Serve Safe stuff, but the advocacy and everything else that they're doing for their members. So they're always the first line of defense for you with the anything you're doing from your operation. But we do have, from a national standpoint, ServeSafe.com, Restaurant.com, Serve It Up, ServeSafeServeItUp.com, all available to you as being a National Restaurant Association member that you can take advantage of. So at this point, Kathleen, I know I kind of talked faster. I got through it in 30 minutes. There wasn't a lot of questions coming in. What I'd like to do is open it up to questions. Keep in mind with questions, I might not know the answer to a specific law or regulation, but I have the resources available to find it. So I'm not just going to, if I don't know the answer, I'm not just going to spout off. I will go out and find that answer for you. We have a whole regulatory department available. We have a product management team available that can answer those questions if I can't answer them for you. So at this point, Kathleen, I think what I'll do is I'll turn it back to you and see if there's any questions from the group.
There is.
Oh, good.
Frank has a question in the chat. It says, please talk about the legality of holding a client's car keys and use of a third-party car service for getting intoxicated patrons safely home.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, so there's a standard of care when someone comes into your establishment. Keep in mind everything that you do from that point. If there ever is a liquor lawsuit brought against you, those procedures that you took to make sure that you provided them with a good standard of care are all going to be documented. So there's two things in there. There's the, using a third-party car service. You've identified someone that's been in trouble with alcohol. It depends on where they are in their journey with alcohol. I mean, if they're passed out drunk, or if they're becoming belligerent and violent, that's a different approach. But if it's someone that you're comfortable with, or your employees are comfortable with, let's get this person a ride. It's certainly a strategy you can use to bring them home. Taking away or holding car keys, that's a little different. It's something you need to be careful with. There is cases that have been brought against operators where they've taken car keys, where the suit's been brought against them for doing that inappropriately. Sometimes the individual gets belligerent or violent. ServSafe doesn't take a stance on that one way or the other. We certainly want to save lives and make sure someone's not hurting themselves. But just know when you are taking someone's keys or suggesting perhaps that they provide their keys because you want to provide them a safe ride home, then that's being documented. It's not you can do that, but we don't take a position on it one way or another. Just know that sometimes taking keys can be delicate. And what ServSafe does is we teach I statements where if you suggest, hey, why don't you give me your keys? We want to make sure you have a great evening with us. We're going to give you not free alcohol, but we're going to give you a soda or a coffee, maybe an appetizer, just to kind of diffuse the situation before you go into taking keys. But taking keys is always kind of a dicey one. It can be in some cases, but the ride home, absolutely, that's a strategy, as long as depending on where they are in their intoxication journey, if you will.
Thank you. Another question, and it's a follow-up question from Mary about 17 again. So can you define what a supervisor in the room is?
Yeah, that's a good one. So even before, researching to do this webinar, I was trying to find the answer to that as well. And I think I printed out how the law reads. Let's see. No, that's on alcohol delivery. So it's worded, it is right in the liquor code, and I can send this out to the team. It needs to have it. The supervisor needs to be on staff, needs to be working on shift on the clock. They need to be 21 years or older. What I can't find is where they need to be in the establishment. Can they be in the back of the house and in the 17-year-olds serving and mixing alcohol, or do they have to be in the vicinity of? I wasn't able to find that, but I will do a deeper dive to see if I can find that. Someone on this call might know that. I couldn't find anything in the liquor code itself. It's a little vague.
Thanks. So can you also tell one of our members if there's a specific age that you must card to, meaning until they appear 30 years old?
That is a corporate policy. So that whatever you want to do from a corporate standpoint, you should have a policy of what triggers an ID check. Sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 40, 50. Some cases it's everyone gets ID'd. I can tell you, the everyone gets ID'd thing gets, someone that's obvious, 50 plus and is balding like myself. I mean, sometimes customers can get a little bit upset about it. I don't. I think they're doing their due diligence. So it's a corporate policy on how you want to do it. ServSafe Alcohol suggests that you have a policy on what triggers an ID check, but really it's up to you on what's going to trigger it. It should be probably 30 or over. I wouldn't do a 25 or over. It's usually 30 or over would trigger an ID check. But I wouldn't say it's, everyone has to be ID'd. I mean, you just have to, from a corporate policy standpoint, you just kind of have to determine that yourself.
All right, great, thanks. Final question, can you share the pickle martini recipe with us?
I don't have it up, and I actually went out over the weekend, not this way past weekend, 2 weekends ago, and they didn't have it, but they were looking to put it on the menu. So I do not know what's in it, but I certainly can find that out. I don't know if it's a vodka gin. I imagine it's not the brown water. I imagine it's more of a clear spirit, but I don't know which one it is that's mixed with pickle juice. I don't have an answer for you, but I'll try to find that out. That's a great question.
Well, thank you, Trevor.
Sure.
I think that was an amazing overview. Thank you, everyone, for participating this morning. This is being recorded, and it will be shared in an upcoming newsletter with our Hospitality Maine membership, as well as the discounts and everything that Trevor highlighted. We will be highlighting that so everyone realizes that that is a perk of membership. And our partnership with the National Restaurant Association allows us to share these resources. So thank you for attending. And if I don't see any other questions, it looks like there is one more. Can you get a fine from liquor enforcement for not carding someone who is legal age but was not carded?
No, well, I shouldn't say it. Most states, how they do it, and I don't know how Maine does it, is it's your responsibility is you can't serve or sell to somebody that's underage. What policies you put in place to make sure that doesn't happen is usually left up to the operator. So the question is can you suppose you didn't card someone that looked like they were 25, can you get in trouble for that? In most states, no, and I would assume Maine is in that category as well. There's some exceptions in states like Florida and other states, but I don't think Maine is any different than any other states. So the answer to that is no, you wouldn't be able to fine if someone